All praises to Yahweh Ba'asham Yahawashi, Ba'asham Akakwadash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the nation of Israel. This is going to be a lesson on things that you're going to want to know if you are claiming that you're a Hebrew Israelite, all right? So I've got a few things written down here, and this is the first one I'm going to go to that I wrote down. It says, how you are affected by the Deuteronomy 28, chapter 28, verse 15 to verse 68 curses, all right? So you're going to want to know what those curses are and know how they're affecting your life, man, because whether you believe it or not, the Negro, Latino, and Native American on the earth, we are the Israelites, right? And we are under curses, man, all right? And that's one of the easiest ways to prove that we're the Israelites, because a lot of people in this world want to try and claim being the chosen. But when you examine them as a nation, you see that they're not under curses, man. And in fact, they're running things. So how can you be cursed and at the same time are running certain industries, which the Israelites are not running any industry? People might say, oh, we're football players, we're athletes and all of this. They might say these claims, they might say, oh, we're the main people, we're the highest percentage of the NBA and all that. But the thing is, we are not the people in charge, right? We're not the ones that own that industry, man. We're the best at it, but we're not the people that own it. So one of the first things you're going to want to know, or one of the things that you're going to want to know if you're saying you're an Israelite, is how you are affected by the Deuteronomy 28 chapter curses, because that's one of the easiest ways to prove that you're an Israelite, right? Another thing that you're going to want to know is that salvation is only for the Israelites, man. And what I mean by that is that the only people that are going to receive the new covenant, right? The only people that are going to be saved from death, as the scriptures say, is the Israelites, because the Israelites are the only one that's going to be free from sin, because we're going to get the new covenant, which is by where the laws of Yahweh are going to be put within our minds and within our hearts, and we're going to be able to do them perfectly, all right? So there's that, all right? The next thing I've wrote down is what is the new covenant? Because a lot of people in this world, they talk about the covenant, they say all of these things, right? But they don't even know what the new covenant is. And the new covenant is, just to let you know, it's written of in Jeremiah, the 31st chapter and the 31st verse, down to the 34th verse. And then it's also written in Hebrews chapter 8. The whole chapter goes into it, right? So if you read the whole of Hebrews chapter 8, it goes into what the new covenant is, who it's for, right? And what's going to happen as a result of that, to a certain degree. It gives a little explanation of what's going to happen as a result of that. And one of those things is that, according to Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 11 and Jeremiah 31 and verse 34, when we're under the new covenant, we're not going to have to teach another Israelite what the new covenant is, right? We're not going to have to tell them about God's laws. We're not going to have to speak to them about trying to be righteous anymore and about trying to do the right thing. We're not going to have to teach them morals, because we're going to do it naturally. The same way as we unconsciously breathe, the same way as our heart unconsciously beats, that's the same way as we're going to keep the laws of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahawashi, all right? So there's that. So let me go back over the things I said. You're going to want to know how you're affected by the Deuteronomy chapter 28 curses, right? You're going to want to know that salvation and understand that salvation is only for you, right? Salvation isn't for everybody else. You're going to want to know what the new covenant is, because that new covenant is your salvation. And the way to get that salvation is ultimately believing in Yahweh Ba'asham Yahawashi, all right? Believing in that Yahweh, which is our Heavenly Father, that He sent His Son, whose name is Yahawashi, which means He's a Savior or He's a deliverer, right? That He sent Him to die for our sins. And that Yahawashi, is going to come back for a second time round. And this time He's going to be meeting the world in a godly form. And He's going to save His elect from all the different corners on the earth where they've been scattered. And those elect are Israelites, you. Those elect are you. Those elect are not everybody else. All right, so another thing I've wrote down is the color of Yahawashi and the color of the Israelites, all right? So you're going to want to understand that Yahawashi, the description of Yahawashi is given in the Bible, and it's in Revelation chapter 1, verse 13 to verse 15, which, if I can try and remember what it says right now, I'll try and remember roughly what it says. So Revelation chapter 1 and verse 13, And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt by the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes was a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice is the sound of many waters. All right, so when it goes into verse 13, Revelation chapter 1 and verse 13, it's saying that in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, the 7 candlesticks represent the 7 different churches, right? So in the midst of these 7 different churches, there was one that stood in like as the Son of Man, right? And that Son of Man is yahawashi, is the Messiah, right? And then it goes on in verse 14 to say his head and his head, right? And his hairs was white as wool, as white as snow, right? And his feet was like unto fine brass, as if it had burned in a furnace. Now my skin, right? My skin tone is brown. This skin color is like the color of brass, right? Brown is the color of brass. And if my skin burnt, I've been on holidays before in the past, long time ago in the past, and my skin was significantly darker than it is right now. Significantly, about 5 shades darker than it is right now. 5 shades. So I know what a dark skinned person looks like, man. And we know what a dark skinned person looks like without going on holiday, right? The world knows what a dark skinned person looks like. The world knows what brass burned would look like. The same way it knows what white burned would look like. It's gonna be extremely dark, man. But all of a sudden, people don't want to say the truth no more. People get a bit silly when it comes to colors when we're talking about skin tone, right? People get a bit colorblind all of a sudden when it comes to skin tone when we're talking about colors. All of a sudden, when you're picking out crayons, right? It's very clear what a black crayon is when you're picking out a crayon, or when you're painting your walls in your house. It's very clear what black is then, and it's very clear what white is. I'm looking at some white street markings that got recently done, in fact, right? And they're white. But when it comes to skin colors, all of a sudden white changes, you know? And that's why we have to say so-called white, because this world wants to try and claim colors that people are not. But if we was to speak what colors people really are, everyone would be getting called either brown of whatever particular shade, light, dark, medium, or they'd be getting called red to pink color, right? They'd be getting called red, light red, pink, you know? There wouldn't be no brown, yellow, pink, green, blue, brown, blue, whatever people be talking about all the time, man. I don't care if he's red, green, orange, pink, brown, blue, but you know what people say. They wouldn't be saying that if it was talking the truth. This skin color that you're looking at right now on my face and on my hand, right, is brown, right? And even if you look at the knuckle parts of my hands, like these parts here, they're darker brown, man. But all of a sudden, when it comes to skin color, people get a bit stupid, you know, and they forget their color schemes all of a sudden. But they'd never mistake brown or black if it come to painting their car, or if it come to picking out a car color, or if it come to painting their garden fence, or if it come to picking their color of their door. They'd know exactly which color then. But these are the kind of people that we're dealing with, man. They can't tell the truth, because if they tell the truth, they'd have to say that if anyone needed salvation on the earth most, it would be the Negro, Latino, and Native American, and they'd have to admit that nobody else needs salvation like how we do. And they'd have to admit that if anyone deserved revenge more than anybody else on the earth, then it would be us that deserves revenge. Right? If all of you people out there was honest, you would have to admit that it was us that deserve revenge, man, not you. We deserve revenge, and we deserve justice for all the things that have happened to us. Because no one on earth cares, but Yahweh cares though. And that's what matters. Let me carry on. All right. So another thing that you're gonna want to know is that lineage is based off the seed of your father, man. All right. Lineage is based off the seed of your father, right? So there's no such thing as mixed race people, as this world likes to try and pretend that there is. There's no such thing as I'm half Ethiopian and I'm half Mongolian, right? Because for starters, everybody has a biblical lineage, right? Whether they call themselves by that biblical lineage or not doesn't matter. People can call themselves whatever they want. I could call myself an Ishmaelite if I wanted to, right? But that don't mean I am one. I'd still be an Israelite. And let me use another term. I could call myself Greek if I wanted to, right? But that wouldn't make me a Greek though. I'm still gonna be an Israelite, right? So if a bunch of Jews or if a bunch of Israelites was under captivity by a bunch of people that were Edomites really, but they decided to call themselves Greeks, right? If these Edomites had some Israelites in captivity and the Edomites were calling themselves Greeks, so then they wanted everybody that's they're ruling over to also call themselves Greeks, right? Would it make them people that changed their names to Greeks become Greeks, or would they still be Israelites? And if all of those people then over time started calling themselves Greeks and forgot their lineage, right? If they forgot their lineage, would those people still be Israelites, or would they now become Greeks because they're calling themselves Greeks? John the Baptist said that he wasn't Elijah, right? But he was. He was Elijah because yahawashi said he was. Some Israelites might be calling themselves Greeks, and some Israelites might be calling themselves Jews. But the Israelites calling the Jews, the Israelites calling the Israelites that want to be called Greeks, calling them Greeks, or some Israelites calling another group of Israelites Greeks, don't make them Israelites really Greeks, though, does it? They'll still be Israelites. So if Yahawashi decided to die for a group of for the whole of the nation of Israel, right? If Yahawashi decided to die, and if Yahawashi was exalted and was made to be supposed to be a sacrifice for the whole nation of Israel, right? For a whole nation of people that are called Israelites, his brothers, right? If one set of Israelites who call themselves Jews because they still understood that they were supposed to follow the laws of their forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and another group of Israelites decided to call themselves Greeks because they'd grown up following after the heathen ways, would the sacrifice that's for the whole of the nation of Israel now not fall upon those people that are Israelites but calling themselves Greeks? It would still be for them, just like it would still be for those ones that was calling themselves Jews. And if the ones that was calling themselves Jews were sinning, but they was covering their sins with sacrifices for their sins according to the law, and the other group of Israelites were sinning, but they wasn't covering themselves with sacrifices under the law because they was thinking that they're Greeks and they was acting like Greeks, would the sacrifice for their sins of both of those two sets of Israelites that was calling themselves Jews and the ones that was calling themselves Greeks, would their sins not now be covered for the sacrifice that Yahweh exalted, which was his only begotten son? And this is what a lot of people don't understand about the Bible. They mistake they think that somebody can change their lineage from their mouth, right? Or they think that somebody can change what they naturally are because they want to say that there's something else. And that's where we've got this whole alphabet stuff that's going on right now. And that's where a lot of people don't understand the whole thing where it mentions Jews or Greeks in the Bible. If you read the book of Maccabees, the first book of Maccabees and the second book of Maccabees, but in particular, if you read the first book of Maccabees and you read the first two chapters, right? And then you jump to the second book of Maccabees and you read the fourth chapter. And then you go to the second book of Maccabees and you read the sixth chapter. And then you go to the second book of Maccabees and you read the seventh chapter. You will read about the horrible things that the Israelites was being made to do and that they was going through for wanting to try and keep their laws. And you will see that some Israelites decided to stay saying that they're Israelites. But some other Israelites decided to run to the heathens for peace, you know, in the hope of trying to get some kind of mercy, in the hope of trying to get some kind of ease up from the pain and the horrible things that they was going through. So that's one thing you're going to know, that lineage is based off the seed of your father. So if you're an Israelite, right? If your father's an Israelite, if your father's a Negro, Latino, or Native American, don't start getting sour or start getting weird, right? Because you're an Israelite. And you might say, "Oh, my mom's Mongolian though, or my mom's from the Japhetic nations though." Well, that don't mean nothing. You're still an Israelite, right? You're still an Israelite, and if you want to turn down being an Israelite, because there's one person from a heathen nation that might treat you with some kind of respect, right? Then you're causing an offense to Yahweh. Because one person from a heathen nation treating you with respect, it doesn't matter who it is. That's not more important than Yahweh having a covenant with you. And no one's going to tell you to disrespect your mom if your mom happens to be a heathen, because it's just your mom. But that doesn't mean that the whole rest of her nation escapes judgment that might be coming their way because your mom's of that nation. That don't mean that, right? So you can't try and have that kind of mindset, man. And you have to think to yourself, well, why did Yahweh make me have a heathen mom? Maybe it's to show that he's not no respecter of persons, and that even if he's going to stand on his word, that if a man is of the elect and a man trusts in his son's sacrifice, it doesn't matter what even his mom is, right? Because there's no such thing, as I said again, there's no such thing as being mixed race. That doesn't exist, man. You're one tribe from one particular nation, and you belong to one nation, and you're from one tribe that's within that nation, right? For example, all people from the tribe of Benjamin are Israelites, right? But not every Israelite is from the tribe of Benjamin, because some Israelites are from the tribe of Ephraim, and some Israelites are from the tribe of Gad, and some Israelites are from the tribe of Zebulun, and some Israelites are from the tribe of Manasseh, and some Israelites are from the tribe of Levi, some Israelites are from the tribe of Naphtali, some Israelites are from the tribe of Judah, some Israelites are from the tribe of Reuben, right? Some Israelites are from the tribe of Asher, some Israelites are from the tribe of, man, I can't remember none of the other ones right now, right? But some Israelites are belong to different tribes, man. But just be grateful that you're an Israelite in general, because that's the best possible thing that you could be on this earth. And if everyone could choose what nationality they would be, they would choose to be an Israelite. Where's the proof on that? Because everybody likes to try and say, even these Christians like to try and say that I'm spiritually an Israelite, right? Because they want to try and claim and take what they know belongs to us. So these are things that you as an Israelite should want to know, man. You should want to know. I'll go back over the list again. You should want to know how you're affected by the Deuteronomy 28 curses, because that's one of the easiest ways to prove you're an Israelite, right? Understand the judgment, understand that salvation is only for Israel, right? Understand what the new covenant is, right? The call of yahawashi and the Israelites, other Israelites. So you want to know that Moses put his hand into his bosom and took it back out again. You want to know that the scriptures say Judah mourneth and the gates of languish. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem has gone up, which is Jeremiah 14 and verse 2. And I don't think I quoted it exactly correct, but Jeremiah 14 and 2 says, Judah mourneth and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, right? And that word for black is quadar, which means dark-skinned. So you want to know these things, right? You want to know that Moses put his hand into his bosom, took it back out. Put his hand into his bosom, took it back out. It was leprous, as white as snow. Then he put it back in, and it went back to the color of his overflesh. That's in Exodus, I think, 4th chapter. Then you want to know that Miriam got turned white, leprous as snow, right? That's what the scriptures say, white, leprous as snow, because pale skin is leprosy according to the Bible. And that's in Numbers, the 12th chapter, that she had that happen to her, right? And then what else? You want to know that Solomon said, I am black but comely, right? Meaning he's dark-skinned. And that's in Song of Solomon, chapter 1 and verse 5, right? So I also got, you want to know why the Israelites were scattered, because knowing that the Israelites were scattered explains why there's going to be Israelites that are of every single different nation, so that you don't get caught up thinking that this is a thing based on skin color. It's not a thing based on skin color. It's a thing based on every single Israelite coming back to their lineage, man. But still knowing that there's a certain stock that represents the majority of our nation, which is the Negro, Latino, and Native American. But there's also such a thing called tares, which is where people might look like a Negro, Latino, or Native American, but really they are any other nation, in particular an Edomite, right? Because they ain't making it into the kingdom. Any Israelite woman that's got a child by a heathen nation, that's a tare, right? That's not one of ours, right? But because the seed is from another nation. But any person that any Israelite man that's got a child by any other nation, the seed belongs to an Israelite. So that seed trickles all the way back to one of Jacob's sons, which would be one of the 12 tribes of Israel. So that's still an Israelite, man. Right? You want to know that I wrote another thing. You want to know the judgment for receiving the mark of the mark. Right? I ain't gonna finish the sentence. You want to know the judgment for that. You want to know that if you take that thing, right? If you take it, you're gonna be destroyed. And the judgment for that is written in Revelation chapter 14 and verse 9, which I'm trying to think of what it says right now. Right? I'm trying to think of what it says. It roughly says something along these lines. Pretty much goes into how if you take it, you're going to be receiving judgment from fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. I'm trying to remember exactly what it says, but it's skipping my mind right now, man. Right? But it pretty much says that if you take it in your hand or in your forehead, right, then you're going to receive judgment. And that judgment is going to be that you're going to be judged in a lake of fire that's burning with brimstone, which is going to be caused from nuclear fire. Right? It's going to be caused by, that's going to be the end result of this World War III that's coming, which that's another thing that you want to know. If you're saying that you're Israelite and if you're believing in the Bible, you want to know that that is going to happen. Right? And that's one of the things that we're trying to flee from. That's one of the things that we're hoping that Yahweh saves us from. The end result, that complete like peak moment, that actual moment of that's going to finish that war. Right? That's what we're trying to be freed from, man. And in order to get freed from that judgment that's coming, we have to refuse the mark. Right? We have to refuse the MOTB. Right? And we have to know what it is, which the MOTB is that CHIP that people have been putting in their hands or in their foreheads, man. That Elon Musk thing that people have been putting in their heads, man. Right? Or that grain of rice that people have been putting in there, that thing that's the size of a grain of rice that people have been putting in their hands, right? And it doesn't really matter which hand you choose. Don't put it in any hands. Don't put it in nowhere, right? So that's another thing. So let me go to one more that I wrote down. That we will be avenged for the slavery and hate that us and our forefathers went through, because a lot of people try and make out and say, oh, you're always talking about slavery, right? They're trying to say you're always talking about slavery as if that's the only judgment and as if that's the only hatred that we receive, right? We receive hatred from all sides, man. We receive blasphemies, we receive false witness on a mass scale all the time, and the effects from the slavery that we went through have still not been healed from, right? The effects that stuff did has still not been healed from, man. And it's not going to be healed until the right judgment is set out. And that right judgment is for them to go through what we went through. That's the only way that it's going to be cleansed. So they're never going to be able to escape it, man. They're never going to be able to erase history. There's not enough buildings that they've boasted over showing those people that caused these things to happen. There's not enough statues of these people that they can tear down. There's not enough buildings that they can tear down. There's not enough books that they can burn to escape this judgment, because Yahweh has already got that memory of all of these things in his mind. He knows all of these things that you've did, and he'll always make us remember these things until the judgment happens, until the justice is acted out for those things that took place. It's never going to be a way that you can escape that, man. Never, ever in your whole lives. And if you're not an Edomite, well, and you look like one, well, then you ain't got nothing to worry about, because it's not going to come upon you, these judgments. It's going to come upon all the Edomites, man. And another thing is that I think I already mentioned this, why the Israelites were scattered. And the Israelites were scattered because it was one of the curses that Yahweh put upon us because we were sinning, right? Because we was told in Deuteronomy the 28th chapter that if we sinned, and it's Deuteronomy 28 and 64, we was told that if we sin, then one of the curses that was gonna happen to us was gonna be that we would be scattered into every single nation, man. We was told that. And it happened, didn't it? Because we know it happened because none of us are in Israel, right? We've all got different accents. right? Here it is. There's some brothers over in America that have got an American New York accent, but then there's other brothers that have got a Western accent. Then there's other brothers that have got a Southern accent, and then there's brothers that have got a Cockney accent, right? Then there's people that have got a Birmingham accent. Then there's people that have got a Northern accent. Then there's people that have got a Australian accent, man. Then there's people that have got a like French accent. There's people that have got Spanish accents, Italian accent, and can speak Spanish. There's people that can speak Romanian. There's people that can speak, well, there's loads that can speak English, but there's people that can speak Romanian, there's people that can speak Italian, there's people that can speak sign language. And the reason why all of these different, there's people that look a bit Ethiopian, there's people that look a little bit like they're from from Ham. There's people that look like they're English, like so-called white. And the reason why this is done is because Yahweh said he was going to do that to us if we sinned. He said he was going to scatter us among every single nation, and he did it, right? He did it because we're not all, that every single Israelite is not on Israel. I'm not looking at Israel right now. What I'm looking at right now is not Israel. I'm on the island of on the UK Isles, man. I'm on the UK island. I'm not on. I can't see Israel right now. I can't see no Israel, man. This is definitely not Israel that I'm looking at right now. It's not Israel. And all of you brothers out there, you probably ain't looking at Israel from wherever you are neither. But this was just a little lesson that I thought I'd do, man. Like some of the things that you were gonna want to know if we're saying that we're an Israelite, because we should be able to, like, for ourselves first, be able to just understand these things, because this is gonna help us know what to expect from Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahawashi and make us want to fight to receive these things, right? All praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahawashi, Ba'Shem Makar Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elected nation of Israel. Shalom.